the launch of TikTok Shop in the last 12 months, consumers can shop directly from within the app through an ad created by an everyday user without ever meeting an influencer. In a crowded market of cult brands and trending ingredients, what is the mindset of a beauty consumer, and how do you maximize your investment to make sure you are top of mind? Welcome to Inside Retail, the podcast brought to you by Edited, the world's leading AI-driven retail intelligence platform. In this podcast, we delve into the current retail landscape, uncovering the opportunities and challenges it's facing. With me, Grace Hill. In this episode, I'm speaking to Leslie Hall. Leslie is the founder of Iced Media, a paid social agency that has transformed beauty brands from small cult businesses to shelf-clearing phenomena. I promise I'm not exaggerating. Take Paula's Choice as an example. After Iced Media laid out its strategy to elevate their hero product, Paula's Choice saw a 70% return on ad spend in 1 year. And 4 years later, they sold to Unilever for $2 billion. With Leslie's expertise in how to sell beauty in the paid ad space, I'm keen to find out what makes a winning TikTok strategy. How important is utilizing AI technology in getting advertising right? And what are Leslie's top tips for creating successful campaigns that maximize return on ad spend, aka ROAS? Hi, Leslie. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's such a pleasure to have you on. How's your day going? How's it been?
My day's going really well. Thank you so much for having me. As you know, I've been listening to a lot of your episodes and I'm already addicted, so I can't wait to jump in.
Oh, well, neither can I. So could you briefly tell us about how you got into your current role and how Iced Media came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So people are usually surprised to hear that I've had my company for over 20 years now. When we started, people were starting to have computers in their home. For any of your listeners that remember dial-up internet, that's how they accessed the World Wide Web. And, certainly we've evolved and iterated our services since then. I think people will be surprised to hear that Facebook is actually having its 20th anniversary in 2024. So a lot has changed.
Wow.
But I think yeah, exactly. We've always been really ambitious about wanting to put our clients at the forefront of the consumer conversation. So we did some of the first advertising campaigns on Facebook, now called Meta with a parent company, did some of the first ever Twitter advertising campaigns, did the first ever influencer campaign on Pinterest that got a ton of press. So for us, it's been really exciting to kind of have that front row view of how technology changes and certainly how consumers use it to discover new products and services, all the way up to the present, right, where we continue to evolve and iterate and now really focus on content creators and media. Paid social is probably, our foremost expertise, primarily in beauty and lifestyle categories. And for us, that's, really about helping grow and scale businesses using paid social media. We are a Meta business partner. We're a TikTok badged partner, and we just launched a social commerce division to really take advantage of all of the opportunity with TikTok Shop.
Wow. I mean, we are so excited to speak to you as such a trailblazer in the industry. And I think in such a ever-changing and evolving space, I think it's, we're so excited to hear from you and your insights and expertise. So could you tell us what a TikTok badged agency means?
Yes, absolutely. So TikTok Shop, as some of your listeners may know, is available now in the US. It's available in the UK. It's available in some other markets and just launched officially about a month ago. But for the past 6 months, we've been working really closely with TikTok, with our reps there, getting all of the proper trainings and really becoming foremost experts on TikTok Shop. So as a result, result, TikTok is, giving us a badge that essentially says we are official TikTok partners and really experts in the TikTok shop space across all of the different kind of tools and technology that are available to brands.
Amazing. Well, I cannot wait to hear more and to really dig into that, and especially into the beauty space. And I guess something that we're extremely passionate about here at Edited is customer centricity. And I feel like that is, at the heart of everything that you do. So I guess another passion of ours is technology. And we love that Ice Media really uses AI-fueled technology to select the right advertising and marketing tools for consumers. Could you tell us a little bit more about that process and what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's kind of a few different ways that we're using AI today. Certainly all of the platforms are evolving their tools so that some of them are more AI driven, right? So with Meta, for example, that might be Advantage Plus. I actually spent 4 hours yesterday at Meta learning about all of the new AI fueled technology available there. So wanting to really leverage the latest technology that our platform partners are rolling out at TikTok, at Meta, at Snapchat, and so on and so forth. But then at Iced Media, we've really invested in our tech stack. And, as a result, because we're running thousands of campaigns, primarily in the beauty space, we have the benefit of anonymizing and aggregating that data so that we're able to see macro trends on everything from, and I hate to kind of use industry jargon, but I'll say, CPM, which for some listeners that, might not be practitioners, it's the cost of the media, and really understanding how we can make every dollar work its hardest for our clients, or looking at CAC, right, which is the cost to acquire a new customer, and being able to have what we call kind of the beauty industry's first and only paid social benchmarks, right? Because you're generally not getting those types of data points from the platforms themselves. We're able to really understand contextually how our clients are performing, not just against their last campaign or year over year, but really looking at the entire beauty industry, looking at different categories like skincare or fragrance, or really even looking at things like different types of content, whether it's creator-driven content like Get Ready With Me or a tutorial or before and after, and understand what's really driving the greatest return, and then helping our clients use that data to make the best decisions.
Again, I mean, how incredible. I feel like, you constantly hear in the industry and the press around kind of the importance of profitable ad spend and really kind of maximizing your ROI. And I think the fact that you're able to support your clients in making sure that they're really selecting and understanding, more importantly, where their dollars are going. So I guess, have you got any kind of key learnings or things that are top of mind right now in maximizing that ad spend?
Absolutely. So one of the things I'll say is, based on our technology, we're able to be much more fluid with our spend, right? So I think historically, the way that a lot of brands or retailers advertised is they'd kind of allocate, $100,000 or pounds or euros to a specific platform, right? With Facebook, and then maybe an Instagram spend and maybe a TikTok spend. So we're able to be much more fluid with that spend now. And then I think the other thing, just giving you an example of some of the learnings that are really top of mind for us, is we absolutely understand that creator-led content in paid media is outperforming brand content more than 2-to-1 right now. So we really think that's kind of the impact that TikTok has on the consumer and the way they're finding out about new products and services. Another big finding we have is about, nano and micro influencers. I think, especially thinking back 20 years when we were working with, a lot more big celebrity types of influencers or household name people that were representing brands as their ambassadors. Now, when we look at the data, we see that micro and influencers, maybe under 10,000 followers, or even a nano influencer, right? Someone with only a couple hundred followers can be as successful in terms of getting that advertising message across and driving profitability as the biggest celebrity with tens of millions of followers. And that's something that's really great, because when you think about leveling the playing field and, some of the smaller indie retailers or brands that may want to compete, obviously it's much more affordable oftentimes to work with those smaller influencers, and knowing they can drive as much of an impact in paid advertising is really reassuring to a lot of those brands.
Wow. I love that stat around the creator-led versus brand-created content in driving success. And I guess I'd love to really dig into then, what is the mindset of beauty shoppers today, and why is it that we're seeing success from more of those nano and micro influencers when it comes to beauty shopping specifically?
So, backing up and looking at the macro view of that, in the beauty category, it's a really fragmented user journey, right? It's not like a household appliance where, maybe you're going into the store to test it out or see how it's going to look in your kitchen, your mudroom, and then, maybe going online and looking at a bunch of different retailers to find the best price or the best service plan or, something that comes with a better warranty. In beauty, it's really fragmented. We see a lot of consumers really using social media as a place to discover new products and new types of innovation in the category. And then, going into the store to try it out. Sometimes we see consumers going to the store, seeing what's available, and then going online to, find out where they want to buy it, or maybe they're loyal to, an Amazon, or they're loyal to a Sephora. So because that journey is so fragmented, sometimes it can be a little bit more challenging for beauty marketers. So understanding that this creator-led conversation is really driving performance today, we understand that consumers now more than ever really want that content to be relatable. They want to be able to see themselves in, whether it's a tutorial, product, and kind of problem and solution is really driving the category today. So being able to see someone that maybe has a similar skin type or hair texture or even skin complexion can make these products a lot more relatable, because the beauty consumer is more savvy than ever, and they're really looking for efficacy. They're looking for products that work, and they want to believe that an individual product is going to be the best item in the whole world to treat that specific issue or that specific need that they have. So seeing people that are relatable is a much easier way to help drive that action or make that sale.
Sure. And I guess build that level of trust. And I think one thing that you've just said, and I've heard you say it before on your Fat Mascara episode, which I really, really enjoyed listening to, was obviously beauty consumers nowadays are buying products, not necessarily brands. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. And it's something that we talk a lot about with our clients. The beauty consumer today, first of all, there's so much more just opportunity for them, right? Because there's so many brands, there's so many products, and the barriers that historically would have existed for brands to get distribution or to get in front of consumers has really come down. So consumers just have so much more to choose from today. And that's why they're a lot less brand loyal, and they're much more likely to have very specific products to meet very specific needs within their regimen. So what I always say is, if you're an unfamiliar brand or retailer, or maybe a retailer just entering the beauty category, and to your point about trust, you don't have that history of trust with a consumer, it's much easier to get them to buy into one step of their color cosmetics routine, or one step of their skincare regimen, or one item in their fragrance wardrobe than necessarily to go in and say, we do all of these things well, buy our whole portfolio, because that's not really how the beauty shopper, for the most part, certainly there are exceptions, but for the most part, it's not how they're shopping today. But if you convince them that you have the number one best product at your price point in your category to meet that need, you're absolutely going to get them in, especially if you have creator-led content and you're going to get them to make that impulse buy.
And on that point, I would love to kind of dig into what is best practice when it comes to that creator-led content in making consumers believe you are the expert in that specific category and you are the number one product that they need to be purchasing?
That's such a great question. That's the magic question. It differs based on the category, the brand, the product, but there are certainly some best practices to follow. Some of them are more logistical in nature, right? Keep your video short, 7 to 15 seconds is fine. This is primarily in paid advertising where we're really leading the way. Another is featuring your brand name and your product in the first 3 seconds, understanding that you've got about half a second to get someone to stop in their feed, 3 seconds to get them to take an action. So the attention spans are really much shorter than they have been historically. But then there's also, I'd say, more content or creative driven best practices. And that's going to be really problem and solution before and after, relatable and diverse creators that you're working with that are really reflective of the audience that you want to cater to. And then I think there's things that are more just trend driven, right? So we know with TikTok, that could be text to speech. It could be certain trending sounds that you could put into your different content. And then one of the trends we're seeing now that we call kind of sensationalism is working really great, where a creator will say, this product changed my life, or I'll never get a different product in this category again, or my hair has never been so shiny. We're seeing that's just it. And sorry for my creator voice. Certainly I'm not one. And now you know why.
The text-to-speech voice.
Exactly. I'm going to turn my robot voice on next, and then everyone's just going to stop listening. But seriously, there are those types of trends that really can come off as sounding believable and authentic, especially if you're working with a creator that really does have an affinity for that particular product and know how to get that message across.
Super interesting. And are you seeing that consumers are more retailer loyal than brand loyal? So you mentioned Sephora, Amazon. Is that how you're seeing that play out in the market right now?
Absolutely, they are. And we know this because in paid social, like I said, we're doing a ton of benchmarking. So for example, Sephora only has a sale several times a year. And the brands that understand how to take advantage of that using paid social media are absolutely going to see a greater velocity, a greater impact against their competitors at shelf, in store and online and in the app, really anywhere the consumer is shopping, when they have really custom creative that is going to resonate not just with those beauty savvy consumers, but with the ones that are more likely to be shopping at Sephora. And I think brands that understand that people go to different retailers when they have different needs can tap into that, right? So we know that Amazon is really about convenience with that, free shipping or next day shipping, even sometimes same day shipping. We know that, here in Walmart, 95% of Americans step foot into a Walmart store every year, but a lot of them are what we call aisle skippers in beauty, right? So really thinking about that mindset of people are going to Walmart for value, and it's likely to be more of a replenishment type of shopping trip, how do we tap into that mindset? But what we absolutely know is the algorithms at these social advertising platforms are really, really good at knowing who the Sephora shoppers are, who the Walmart shoppers are, who the Amazon shoppers are. And as a result, we can really drive value for our clients when we're running those campaigns.
You had mentioned metrics like CAC, for example, and cost of acquiring customers. Selling beauty to new consumers online has historically been a challenge because in comparison to, apparel or footwear, I guess it's obvious challenges around trying it on and how does it work for you? What strategies have you seen which really work well for acquiring new customers versus retaining customers?
That's a really great question. I think a lot of brands struggle with what they used to kind of think of as their loyalty programs, and now they're being much more intentional about how to retain consumers, especially to your earlier point when we were talking about how this consumer is going to be maybe more loyal to the retailer that they shop at, but maybe less loyal to the specific brand or the specific product. So when we think about prospecting and retargeting, first, we understand that the algorithms and the ad products are getting much, much more sophisticated and really helping us drive that impact. Meta, for example, with their AI-fueled kind of advertising platform Advantage Plus, does a really good job to help you be super efficient with your campaigns. And it's almost turning Meta into more of what we would call an intent-driven platform than a discovery one. So we used to kind of think about platforms like Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok as really discovery-driven. However, and think of things like Google and Amazon as more intent-driven, right? Because that's where you're going for your product searches. And the algorithm at Meta has become so sophisticated that if you shared a link on direct message on Instagram, if you clicked like on a dress, if you're in the market for a lipstick, you are within seconds going to see, 10 or 12 different brands and retailers in that category, likely that you've never heard of, but that are really, really consistent and similar to whatever that initial product you were looking at was. So what that's doing is kind of collapsing the journey in terms of prospecting for a lot of brands, but also the algorithm is so sophisticated, it understands what to show to someone who's, not visited your website, someone who's not following you on social media, someone who has not made a purchase from you in the past 90 days or 180 days. And it's going to show a different message to that individual than it will to someone that it knows purchased from you recently. So that is a really, really powerful tool. But the brands that are leveraging that technology are oftentimes only going to be successful as they're creative, right? We know from Meta that 56% of the outcome of an advertising campaign is based on the creative, right? So you think about all of the different types of elements that go into an advertising campaign, the ad product, the audience, the flighting, and the creative. The creative is more than 50%, more than half as important as all of those other things combined. So for brands that are really savvy and have a variety of creative and creative that speaks differently to their new customers and their existing customers are the ones that can really win.
And when it comes to those creative elements, I guess that's a fascinating stat, right? That you can have the technology in place, but you really need to double down on the creative and be exciting and engaging and new. What have you learned that makes brands win in that space? Are there kind of best practice pillars or takeaways when it comes to the creative elements?
There are. I think testing and learning is the single most important thing for every brand. because they need to understand that what's working for their competitor is not necessarily going to work for them. So we're really big advocates of testing and learning. Meta and TikTok have, different type of testings and learnings that they can create for you. Those are oftentimes going to come with a much higher threshold, such as a brand lift study or a conversion study, where it's going to be about 300,000, 400,000 pounds per campaign, just to get involved.
And I guess when it comes to profitable social media investment, are there any things that you've seen that are what not to do? Any things that you've seen you think, oh gosh, I wish they'd never considered that before they come and worked with ICE Media?
All the time. I think that's why
Some
we get
horror
hired.
Stories.
That's why we get hired some of the time. I'd say a few things. The first is really being thoughtful about how you're working with creators, especially because a lot of the brands that we're seeing, they're either just working with creators organically. So that creator will have some co-created content with the brand. Certainly, that's great for building brand equity. And that creator will post it on their social media profile. And then the brand's gonna hope that it gets visibility, right? So on Instagram, we're seeing like maybe on a good day, you'll get 2 to 3% earned reach, right? So even if someone has 10 million followers, the brand is still only going to reach 2 to 3% of those. On TikTok, they're kind of crossing their fingers for that viral hit, which can happen, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to chase. And then sometimes we'll go to brands and we'll say, well, we know you're working with these creators and you spent a lot of money. Can we use that content in your paid advertising? And then it'll turn out it hasn't been negotiated in the contract. And then sometimes, either it's too late or, the window on how long the usage is going to expire and the brand is really missing out. I think another thing that a lot of brands aren't aware of is on Meta specifically, anyone that watches at least 3 seconds of a video can go into your retargeting. We talked about retargeting earlier, right? Can go into your retargeting pool. So you're missing out on the ability to continue that long-term discussion with people that are interested, because when you're only getting the organic benefit of the creators, you're not really going to be able to build your retargeting or even prospecting pipeline.
And in terms of TikTok and TikTok Shop, obviously it's currently a major catalyst for beauty sales, but also discovery, as you had mentioned. I am really curious to know how it's going, how are consumers leaning into that, and your advice on a really winning TikTok Shop strategy.
All great questions. One thing we always like to kind of caveat is, here in the US, TikTok Shop only launched kind of out of beta 1 month ago. And, there are brands that have been on for maybe as many as 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. But I think we're still learning what some of those best practices are. I think the data right now might not be, obviously I said we do a lot with data. It's really important to us. So it might not be very what we'd call statistically significant. Again, I hate using jargon, but, is there enough data that we can actually draw conclusions? So I'd say right now it's a little bit more anecdotal. So a few things I think are really important. First and foremost, and I was on a panel last week with TikTok and we were talking about this, the mindset of a lot of brands or marketers or retailers is they think of TikTok and they immediately think marketing investment, how much is this going to cost me? This sounds really expensive. And it's really a mindset shift to understand that, yes, TikTok is, at least here in the US, the #1 entertainment platform, more viewership than Netflix, which is so popular here. And, 150 million Americans, Gen Z spending 128 average minutes per day on TikTok. So it's the magic of that marketing vehicle, but combining that with what has the potential to be your number one sales channel. And for us, that's what's so exciting about TikTok Shop is we've never before seen an opportunity to marry your marketing and your sales channel in this way. So certainly we're seeing a ton of adoption from consumers. We're seeing really effective campaigns, but those are for the brands that are approaching TikTok Shop with that real 360-degree strategy, just like they wouldn't launch in Sephora without a plan to be successful. They wouldn't onboard to Amazon or another marketplace without thinking holistically about long-term success. And I think a lot of brands expect, oh, we're on TikTok Shop now. We flipped this switch. Now all the new sales are going to come in.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work that way, right? You really need to leverage all of the tools and resources that are available with TikTok Shop. So here in the US, that's going to be the affiliate center, which I believe there's also creators built in the UK to how brands are using TikTok Shop there. It's using the free sampling program. It's tapping into all of the amazing kind of subsidies and promotions that TikTok is offering to new brands, whether it's free shipping, whether it's first time purchase discounts. I know that can be an issue for some luxury retailers or luxury brands that maybe don't want to associate themselves with a discount. So we're helping brands navigate that. But the brands that have a mindset to understand the potential of TikTok as a true sales or distribution channel and are thinking about how they can be successful long term are the ones that are having the greatest impact.
I think I read you were quoted in Beauty Inc. Very recently. You were talking about TikTok Shop, and I think they shared the example of Benefit and Benefit's TikTok Shop strategy. But I guess it would be wonderful to hear from you, Leslie. Could you share for us an example of how a brand is using TikTok Shop and how that relates to their wider strategy?
Sure. So one example I really love is one of our clients that had what I'll call year-long ambassadors. And these are mega influencers that have a lot of followers that probably a lot of your retailers and your brands listening are working with today, who are just really, really big TikTok creators. And they had an upcoming campaign and had just recently onboarded to TikTok Shop. And one of the things we were able to do was invite, because it was so early, we were able to invite those creators into the affiliate center within TikTok and kind of change the briefing so that the content included what we'd call shoppable videos, right? Those videos where with just 2 clicks, you can purchase an item. And then we took the best content from those mega creators and even some micro creators, and we put paid media behind it. There are a few ad products exclusive to TikTok Shop. So we were able to leverage that on behalf of this creator content. So what's really fascinating for us is to be able to see the incrementality from launching on TikTok Shop, then from having these mega creators post shoppable videos for the first time, and then being able to really amplify the results using paid media and these ad products from some of the best performing creative.
And could you share with us kind of the impact that's having on these businesses?
So it's certainly, I would say, accelerating the results. When I spoke with TikTok last week on a panel, the gentleman who's his name is Ajay Salpikar, he's the head of beauty for TikTok Shop here in the US, and he had this really great, again, kind of anecdote, but he was saying your overall, what they call gross monthly volume GMV, again, industry jargon, your GMV this month, next month could be your GMV in a week. The next month could be your GMV in a day. So really understanding what that potential is to be successful is really important for brands to understand that it's not like, one day they're just going to go from having a TikTok shop, having some creators, and then seeing this kind of, big increase in purchases. It's really leveraging the full ecosystem that exists to them. So I think that's super, super important. The other thing I can mention, which is just, again, kind of anecdote with data behind it that we found really surprising, is for our client that has those mega influencers, the micro influencer in the media campaign is outselling those mega influencers 5-1. So
wow.
I think that really shows you that you can go in with the best intentions and the greatest excitement, but it's really about testing and learning what's going to work for your business.
That's a fantastic anecdote. So Leslie, moving forward and, thinking about the future, I would love to get your thoughts and feelings. What does the next 5 years look like, in your opinion? Are there platforms that retailers really need to have top of mind? Is there things that are on the horizon which they may not have yet considered?
So I wish I had a crystal ball. I say for us, it's really our job at Iced Media to help our clients stay at pace with the consumer, right? It's not for the brand or the retailer to try to change behavior, because as marketers, we know that's one of the hardest things in the world to do. Yeah. But it's really to keep pace with the behavior. Certainly right now, we're really bullish on TikTok Shop because we understand the potential of combining that marketing and sales channel like I talked about. I think it's probably also going to give a little boost or resurgence to Instagram checkout, which is something that we know in the US, for example, there's over 80 million credit cards saved to Instagram for checkout, right? And that's for a 2 or 3 click checkout. So really great for impulse buys, really great for categories like beauty, especially that have that kind of lipstick effect in downturns. So I think we'll see a resurgence there. I think what we're really seeing is in social media, where we know consumers are increasingly spending more time. Even at Meta yesterday, time spent on Facebook is up 7% over the past year. Instagram up 6%. Reels on Instagram has driven an increase of 40% of time spent. So we're really seeing consumers spending more time on these platforms. We know that they're discovering products and services there. So the ability to continue to condense that user journey and make checkout easier is a no-brainer for retailers. Just thinking about how can you sell where your consumer is in a way that makes it really easy for them to take an action when they have that urge is really important. And then I think being ambitious is not easy for every business. We've really seen that with TikTok Shop, where when we're ready to onboard a brand, we always remind them how new it is, that they need to expect that there are going to be some glitches, that maybe everything isn't going to be perfect the first time. And I think those are really the perks or the benefits, but also sometimes what really can be the frustrations. I know that sounds like a really negative word, but the frustrations with being a first mover is having the patience and the resilience to understand that the outcome is really going to be worth any of those maybe obstacles along the way. But not every brand and not every organization really has the appetite for that. So it's important, when we're talking about new platforms for brands to know that.
That's wonderful. I really love the takeaway of kind of the frictionless customer experience ultimately, and using data and technology to really meet your customers where they are, I think is really important. Leslie, thank you so much for joining us today. That has been incredibly insightful and really appreciate you joining us. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Grace. This has been so fun. I'm such a big fan of you and the pod, and just really honored to be on today and hopefully share some knowledge with your listeners. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Inside Retail with me, Grace Hill.
For more insights, head to our resources section on edited.com and follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode.